But for myself, being a bodybuilder, being a natural bodybuilder who just wants to pack on as much muscle as possible, is very hard to be a vegan bodybuilder. It requires 3 times as much thought into the whole process of dieting, and I can't do that.
Oh, young Brian, I wonder what you would think of me now.
Oh God.
It's been 4 years since the last time I did a video like this, and as an 8-year vegan now, I think we're due for another. So we're gonna be taking a year-by-year close-up look at my vegan journey so far. Let's get into it.
I thought it would be fun to do it as a vegan day of bulking. I've never ever tried to eat as a vegan. I know it's very healthy for you. A lot of people have recommended it for my acne. I'm just not usually that type of person to be able to do that.
So year 1, day 1, I had no idea what I was getting into, no intentions of sticking to it, and honestly, I had no belief that plants could actually build muscle. Honestly, I just thought it would be fun to do this challenge, and I was hoping that it would help with the acne I still had. This year, I literally survived on Gardein. So year 2, I had been dieting for about 4 to 5 months at this point, and I was getting ready for my first competition as a vegan. I had gotten really lean, but I heard this terrible rumor that you could go lower protein as a vegan, and I don't really know why looking back, but I bought into it, so I did. I was getting around 115 to 130 grams a lot of the days, but ultimately at this point I was happy with what I looked like. Fast forward towards the end of the year and I had continued on that lower protein diet, but at this point I could tell the difference. You'll notice you don't see any full body shots of me in this vlog, and that's because honestly I was insecure. I felt small, I felt like I couldn't truly tell people I was a bodybuilder, and I also had this shoulder impingement that was holding me back in my training. And seriously, this was a harder part in my life than I would like to admit. I loved veganism at this point, but I was really conflicted. Moving on to year 3, I definitely smarted up, started having more protein, and I was seeing more muscle mass come on. I also started growing my hair and apparently also my beard out. By this point, I had a lot better understanding of how to cook, so I wasn't relying so much on the processed stuff, and I had definitely started adding a lot more of that muscle mass on. My faith in veganism had grown a lot this year. All right, it's year 4. We're definitely fully committed and in it for the long run. I had a lot more mass at this point, and I had gone through a mini cut, so I was pretty lean, and I was still working through that shoulder thing, but I was making progress and getting more and more excited. I had a blood test this year, and everything looked excellent, so I kept the progress going. Year 5. This was definitely my best year so far as a vegan. My hair reached its full glory, my recipes had gotten a lot better, and I released my first recipe book. After lots of PT work, my shoulder was cooperating, and I was just overall really stoked about life. This was the year I made some awesome content like the I ate a pound of soy every day for a month challenge, and then this was also the year that I started creating the World Vegan News series, and the world was introduced to broccoli.
Broccoli here, reporting from Eat Drink Vegan, wearing the worst glasses of my life.
Now year 6, this is actually when my dad went vegan. He had seen me successfully live and bodybuild as a vegan, and then he saw the Game Changers documentary and switched to a plant-based diet. Fun fact, he and my mom are still vegan to this day. This is also the year that me and Simnet got a house together in LA for a month.
I like to do a little dry scoop of the beet powder just to get it down quick. You gonna try it?
I need chaser or something.
Yeah, water your mouth first.
Dude, I never gag, man. That was crazy.
And this was also a super good year. My body was cooperating, I was growing heavily, I was spending time with people who inspired and pushed me, and everything just felt aligned physically as well as spiritually.
Oops, that hurt.
Yeah, I got totally wrecked on that bike, but luckily I was okay. Year 7, this is the year of the lockdown, so I was very fortunate to make a deal with a local gym owner. That way I could work out there because those home workouts were not doing it for me. My body and my health were great this year, but the lockdowns definitely threw a damper on, all the fun I was having and just slowed down my creative juices, but it was still a good year. On to year 8. We were in the process of moving from San Diego to Arizona, and so we were bouncing from Airbnb to Airbnb for most of the year, but surprisingly, it was one of the best years for my body. I had worked my way up to some pretty heavy lifts. I felt excellent, and then we started a van life trip where we literally traveled half of the country while living in a minivan. You think this would be a lot harder as a vegan, but actually it all went off without a hitch. And at this point, I think I could say I had achieved level 99 vegan status. And that brings us to now. This is literally the best I've felt about my physique ever. This is the best I've felt health and energy wise, the best I've felt about all my friendships and my spiritual growth, and I'm feeling incredibly inspired for this year to come. So now I want to go into a little bit more depth about the positives and the negatives that I've experienced in my 8-year vegan journey. It's crazy being able to flip through the years, year by year, and just see how much I've changed. So I started in 2015, tons of things have changed. And I'm gonna break it into 2 sections. One is my physical changes, things I've noticed with my body, especially as a bodybuilder. And then the second section is going to be more about my experience as a vegan. And I think all of this is really interesting, especially since it's been so long since the last one. So let's just dive into it. Okay, so the first thing I've noticed, I have really clear skin now. In fact, not only do I have clear skin, it's actually gotten much more healthy and just like more glowing, I guess is the word I would use. But people are always asking like, what do I do for my skin? And then I show them the footage of me with acne before, and they're literally mind blown. And that's one of the biggest changes is I originally went vegan because of my acne. That was it. But then as I stayed vegan, not only did all my acne go away, it stayed away. It's much more difficult for me to get pimples and breakouts now. I have to really be violating all the things that I shouldn't be doing, like junk food and all that kind of stuff. But eating plant-based has also really helped with just how my actual skin looks. It's a lot more nourished, it's a lot more smooth. It's helped to repair my scarring and my discoloration that I had from acne. So that is like absolutely one of the top things on my list. All right, so now I want to dive into a little bit of like bodybuilding and muscle. And I don't have all great things to say about veganism. I actually have some maybe like critiques, but what I've experienced is that I have to eat more calories to gain muscle and while I am dieting, while I'm trying to lose fat. And I don't know exactly what this is. I'm suspecting that because of the foods that I'm eating a lot healthier than I ever did when I wasn't vegan. So that's its own thing. But then also I'm eating a lot of, vegetables and fruits, which I never really had that much of before. And those things have fiber. And depending on what you eat, it does actually take your body more calories to digest. So I'm thinking the things that I'm eating, being more whole foods and fibrous, they take more calories from my body to digest. Therefore, I need more calories to be in a surplus to grow muscle, or I need a lot more calories while in a deficit trying to lose body fat just because my maintenance is a lot higher with these foods. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, this is actually a really good thing because I really, really, really love food. So not a bad thing for me. Could be bad if you tend to hate food and if you're a hard gainer already. Definitely another thing that I've noticed that kind of goes along with that one is that my body just seems to want to be leaner. I don't know if this is also partly to do with me holding less water because I'm not as inflamed, but it seems like I always have a bit more definition than I used to have. I used to kind of be a little bit more fluffy. I would kind of have this this water retention in my throat and my face. People would call it the moon face. So again, this means I have to be a lot more intentional on eating lots of volume, or if I tend to not and I just eat intuitively, I just lean up. Again, not a bad thing. It's definitely something that's different than before I was vegan. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, which I mentioned earlier in the video, I do need more protein than I thought. And so this has nothing to do with the whole bioavailability, like are plant proteins as useful as non-plant-based sources, none of that stuff. This is just that at a certain point, I went too low and I had to really refigure out what the right minimum is. And for me, it's somewhere around like, I'd say 150 or something like that, but I always really aim aim for 165 grams plus just to make sure that I have enough. Now, I want to mention, I was having over 300 grams of protein every day before I was vegan. And so if we're talking about bioavailability, I have still been able to gain muscle. And honestly, this is the best my physique has ever looked. Really aiming, again, only at 165 grams, which is like almost half. So I don't know what that says about bioavailability of plant-based proteins, but I'll tell you what, the plant proteins are working for me. Okay, now I want to switch gears and just talk about my overall experience as a vegan, because I know not everybody watching is a bodybuilder, but having an 8-year vegan's perspective can be really useful. So first off, social situations. The difference from 2015 to now in 2023 is huge. When I first went vegan, I was getting, made fun of. People were saying, oh, it's like a fad, you aren't gonna stick to it. People were making jokes like,
I have some lawn clippings you might want to eat. Does your poop look like little rabbit pellets? I heard that makes your boobies grow as a man.
All that stuff. We've heard it a million times. And sometimes people wouldn't even know what a vegan was. They've never heard of it before. The difference now is huge. I do not run into people who don't know what veganism is at all unless they're over 70 years old, period. It's also now really, really difficult for me to find a restaurant, at least on the coastal cities, that doesn't have at least an option, if not a whole vegan menu. And obviously, we all know this, but the choices we have at the grocery store, at restaurants, just all together have improved massively. There's so much good food to eat, and it really, in my opinion, is not a struggle anymore. But when I started in 2015, it was really hard and I knew nothing. So I was just eating really boring stuff that wouldn't have been sustainable, like just straight up lentils and oatmeal. That's it. So overall, the way I think about veganism has changed, but also veganism has changed the way that I think about everything. My empathy, my understanding, and my care towards others has just risen tenfold. Again, I started veganism because of acne, and that grew my empathy huge to understand people who have acne, but also people who go through any struggle. But then, as I continued being vegan, I learned about the ethical side of things, and I really realized it aligned exactly with how I was already thinking. I just hadn't realized it. And since then, over the years, the reason that I'm vegan is no longer just because of acne. It's shifted over to an ethical perspective. And that's something that I'm really grateful for and something that I really value about myself, because I am empathetic not only to animals, but to people all over the place with all sorts of different situations. And that feels good to me. So overall, as an 8-year vegan, I'm literally in the best shape of my life. I feel the most capable to make gains, and I see the best recovery and strength ever at this point. And also my overall life, I feel like is the best that it's ever been. And I'm extremely happy, extremely grateful, and I'm in a fantastic spot. I only mention this every once in a while, but if you guys don't know, I actually do online vegan fitness coaching. So we work one-on-one, and I customize everything for you every single week. I'm changing it as your body changes, as your workouts need to change, all that kind of stuff. I'm very hands-on. So I only take a couple people on at a time because it takes so much of my time. But if you are unsure if what you're doing is the best, or you just want somebody who has done everything, spent all the time making mistakes, and so you can just learn from those mistakes and not have to make them yourself, I would love to work with you. Just send me a DM on Instagram, Brian Turner Official. You and me will literally chat. I'll probably literally voice message you, but send me a DM that says coach, and then we can start talking. That's it. In the comment section below, let me know how many years you've been vegan and your review of it. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if not subscribed already, and I'll see you in the next video.